She didn't hear the clock ticking anymore. She didn't notice the tea in front of her had gone cold. All she could see were the papers in her hands, pages that weren't just ink on paper, but the burial certificate of everything she had once believed about love, partnership, and forever. 10 years earlier, she had walked down an aisle with a heart so certain it could burst. She had believed she'd found the man who would be her soulmate, her best friend, her passionate lover, her financial partner, her spiritual guide, her emotional anchor, her social trophy, her life coach, all in one single human being. She wasn't naive. She thought she understood what it meant to commit, to build, to weather storms together. Yet here she was, staring at the silent collapse of the dream she'd been sold. And across the room, he stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame with a kind of exhaustion that had no physical cause. He wasn't angry, and he wasn't cruel. He was simply drained, worn down by years of being everything she needed him to be and knowing he could never truly fill all those roles. He had thought marriage meant having someone to share life with, to walk beside him through the joys and the trials, to share responsibilities, to build a life as partners. But what he found instead was that he had been cast as someone's entire universe: parent, priest, psychiatrist, provider, performer, personal entertainment system, and more. A single man asked to embody an entire community's worth of connection. They were both good people. They both tried, genuinely and for years. They did what the world told them to do, followed the script laid out by generations before them. They ticked the boxes, said the vows, built the home, played the roles. But like so many couples, they were now learning the truth the hard way. The script itself was broken. It wasn't their failure. It was the failure of an outdated yet ever-growing set of expectations that no two people could possibly fulfill. The marriage they had entered was nothing like the marriage marriage was originally designed to be. Over time, it had mutated into something else entirely, an impossible arrangement that tried to merge romance, friendship, family, therapy, adventure, financial security, and spiritual destiny all into one fragile human bond. And like a bridge built for horse-drawn carriages now expected to carry the weight of a freight train, their marriage, like millions of others, was collapsing under the sheer load of what it was never engineered to hold. The truth is that marriage today is sinking under its own weight, not because love is dead or because people are selfish, but because the institution has been overloaded far beyond its design limits. When you push any system beyond what it was built for, it breaks. Bridges collapse. Servers crash. Engines fail. Relationships crumble. And this isn't because bridges, servers, engines, or relationships are inherently flawed. It's because they're being asked to do things they were never meant to do. Once upon a time, marriage had a singular, humble function: to create a stable environment for raising children. Two adults agreeing to join forces for one primary purpose: successfully launching the next generation. That was it. Simple, achievable, focused. You didn't need your spouse to be your therapist, your muse, your adventure partner, your spiritual soulmate, and your source of endless excitement. You needed them to be a reliable co-builder of a shared, practical goal. But we didn't leave it there. Over centuries, we began adding layers, one after another, until this once simple framework became a mega institution too massive for anyone to carry. Religion came in and told us marriage wasn't just a partnership, but a sacred covenant with eternal consequences. Romanticism told us it wasn't enough to work together, you had to be swept away in passionate love forever. Social shifts dismantled the extended family networks that once shared the emotional load, leaving couples to meet every single one of each other's needs alone. Gender roles blurred and expectations became negotiable, yet the demands didn't shrink, they only grew. Now, marriage is expected to be passionate yet stable, romantic yet practical, spiritual yet secular, traditional yet progressive, individualistic yet communal, exciting yet safe. We have taken a practical partnership and transformed it into an everything relationship. And nothing, no relationship, no matter how strong, can survive being everything. The heaviest weight we have placed on modern marriage is the demand that it be built entirely on romantic love. Passionate love, the kind that consumes your thoughts and keeps your heart racing, was never designed to be the foundation of a lifelong partnership. It is biologically wired to be temporary. to draw two people together long enough to bond and reproduce. It thrives on novelty, excitement, and emotional intensity, all the very things marriage requires you to temper in the name of stability, routine, and compromise. And so, we have created an impossible contradiction. We want the stability of a lifelong home with the thrill of a first kiss. We want routine and novelty, safety and adventure, predictability and surprise, all from the same person. The forces are not complementary, they are opposites, pulling in different directions until something tears. The result is that we expect one person to be our co-parent, our passionate lover, our best friend, our emotional therapist, our financial partner, our spiritual guide, our personal trainer, our career coach, and our chief entertainer. As Kurt Vonnegut once observed, you are not enough people to fulfill all of those roles for another human being. It's not just unrealistic, it's mathematically impossible. And when reality inevitably falls short of fantasy, resentment creeps in, not because your partner has done something wrong, but because they are a finite human being who cannot be your entire world. History's most passionate love affairs were often short-lived precisely because passion struggles to survive the slow grind of daily life. When we force it to shoulder the work of practical partnership, we risk losing both the passion and the partnership entirely. That way, the pacing and emotional engagement stay consistent all the way through. In the past, getting married didn't mean locking yourself into an emotional bunker with one other person for the rest of your life. Marriage came with an entire network, a web of siblings, cousins, in-laws, and community ties that surrounded and supported the couple. When a woman married, she didn't just gain a husband, she gained sisters-in-law she could talk to, mothers-in-law who could offer guidance, aunts who could share wisdom, cousins who could bring laughter into the home. When a man married, he didn't just gain a wife. He gained brothers-in-law to joke with, uncles who could offer advice, fathers-in-law who could guide him, and a ready-made network of male companionship. Your spouse was your primary partner, but never your sole source of conversation, advice, companionship, and emotional connection. Problems didn't always have to be taken to your partner because you had other people to lean on. That support system wasn't a luxury, it was the glue that allowed marriages to function without burning out the two people at the center. Today, those networks have thinned or disappeared entirely. Modern couples often live far from extended family, disconnected from long-term community, surrounded by acquaintances instead of trusted, lifelong allies. What used to be a shared burden has become an isolated one. Now, when you marry, you essentially gain one more person to talk to, but for the bride, that person is a man, and for the groom, that person is a woman. This may sound romantic, but in reality, it creates a pressure cooker. Every need that was once distributed across a web of people now gets funneled onto one individual. You're not just a partner, you're expected to be the best friend, the lover, the therapist, the motivator, the social companion, the co-parent, the cheerleader, and the safe place all in one. And while that expectation might feel noble in theory, it's a recipe for emotional exhaustion in practice. No matter how much love there is, no single person can be everything to someone else. This is where the concept of emotional exclusivity becomes a trap. Sexual exclusivity makes biological and practical sense in the context of pair bonding and raising children. It provides clarity and stability. But when that exclusivity expands into the emotional realm, when it becomes the unspoken rule that your partner should be your sole source of deep connection, understanding, and support, the marriage starts to suffocate. Human beings aren't built for emotional isolation. We are wired for a variety of connections. Different people bring out different sides of us, offer different insights, and meet different needs. When that diversity of connection is cut off, when jealousy arises over friendships or suspicion over outside bonds, the relationship shrinks into something smaller than what two whole lives could offer each other. Partners become emotional prison guards, monitoring each other's closeness with others, believing that time or intimacy given outside the marriage somehow threatens what they share inside it. But the truth is the opposite. Restricting emotional connection outside the marriage doesn't strengthen the bond, it starves it. Healthy marriages have breathing room. They allow both partners to have friendships, to nurture passions, to engage with communities, to find connection in different places, and then to bring that renewed energy home. It's these outside experiences that often make a person more interesting, more alive, and more attractive to their spouse. The irony is that the more we try to fuse into one seamless, emotional unit, the more we erode the individuality that first drew us together. You cannot stay fascinated by someone who has no life outside of you. You cannot maintain attraction to someone whose world is entirely defined by your shared routines. Space and independence aren't threats, they are oxygen. Without them, the flame suffocates. The failure of modern marriage is not rooted in a lack of effort, but in a misunderstanding of what it is supposed to be. We have taken a practical arrangement for building shared stability and loaded it with demands for unending romance, personal fulfillment, spiritual purpose, and emotional totality. No other human institution is expected to carry such weight. We don't expect our job to be our therapist, our passion, our community, our identity, and our retirement plan all in one. Yet we expect this of marriage, and as those expectations stack higher, the failure rate rises in lockstep. This is why more than half of marriages end not because people are less moral, less patient, or less committed than before, but because they're entering an institution that has been warped into something it was never meant to be. The way forward isn't to double down on the fantasy and try harder to meet impossible expectations. The way forward is to strip marriage back down to its core function, a partnership built around specific, realistic shared goals. This doesn't mean stripping away love, affection, or intimacy. It means recognizing that those things thrive when the foundation beneath them is manageable and stable. When two people understand that their marriage isn't meant to be their entire life, but rather one important part of it, the pressure eases. They can stop trying to be everything to each other and start being what they are best at, being together partners who work toward common objectives. And from that partnership, love can grow in a way that is sustainable, not in a way that constantly teeters on the edge of burnout. It also means accepting that fulfillment, meaning, and happiness are individual responsibilities, not marital guarantees. When each person takes ownership of their own growth, purpose, and satisfaction, they come into the marriage already whole. They're not looking for someone to complete them, they're looking for someone to build with. The healthiest marriages are created by two individuals who each have lives, friendships, interests, and goals outside of the marriage, and who bring the best of those lives into the partnership. This keeps the marriage alive, because it's fueled by people who are alive in themselves. If we can let go of the myth that marriage must be a one-stop shop for every human need, we give the institution a fighting chance to succeed again. We allow it to be what it was always meant to be, a cooperative, purposeful alliance that supports shared objectives while leaving room for the individual to breathe. Love can exist within that. Passion can flare within that. Intimacy can deepen within that. But none of it survives when the foundation is overloaded with demands it cannot possibly hold. The problem isn't that people no longer know how to love. The problem is that we've asked love to do the work of an entire community, and then wondered why it buckles. The solution is not in finding the mythical perfect partner who can be all things. It is in returning marriage to its original scale and purpose, where two people can actually succeed. And when they succeed at that, everything else they build together becomes far more possible.